Good evening. I'm Pranay Sharma from S.MONK. Okay. Welcome to the first demo lecture of Core Mathematics 1 or CM1. At any point of this lecture, if you have any doubts, if you want to discuss something, you can unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat. I have the chat open. I'll always be checking that out as well. Okay. So our CM1 or the Core Mathematics 1 is financial mathematics and life contingency. So we learn some topics of financial mathematics and then later on we learn some topics of life insurance. That is how the Core Mathematics 1 has been created. Okay, so in this Core Mathematics 1 CM1 we have these particular chapters. Okay, so we have in total 26 chapters here. Okay, so here you would see 27 chapters. That is because they have removed this chapter 1. Okay, so from this chapter 2 to this chapter 27 is in course right now. Okay, so we have basically 26 chapters. So in this, the first from chapter 1 to chapter 13. Okay, as I said, chapter 1 has been removed, so chapter 2 to chapter 13 is financial mathematics and chapter 14 to chapter 27 is life contingency. Okay, so we'll be learning the financial mathematics and then we'll be learning the life contingency. Now we have paper A and paper B. Paper A is going to be a written paper. We call it as written paper, but it is online now. Okay, so we'll just write it as written. 100 marks. And paper B is Excel. 100 marks. Okay. Now, depending on which institute you are giving this from, IFOA, you will have to type this in Word. Okay, Microsoft Word, you'll have to type your examination in Microsoft Word. And in IAI, it is online MCQ. Okay, so completely MCQ based examination online, but what we are going to study is exactly same for both the institutes, IFOA as well as IAI. The portion, the study material, everything is exactly same. Okay, Excel, you will be this is all, of course this will also be online on Excel. This is also online on Excel. So whatever we are going to learn in paper A, you should be able to solve it in Excel. That is what is paper B. You'll have to give both these paper A and paper B together in the same session. Like if you're giving the examination in April 2025, you'll have to give both A and B examination in 2025. And however marks you obtain from this, so let's say in the written examination 100 marks, you obtain 80 marks out of this. They will be taking 70% of that, and let's say in paper B you score 65, they will take 30% out of that, and that is going to be your total marks. This is going to be your total marks. So let's say 80 into 0.7 plus 65 into 0.3, that is 75.5. That will be your final marks of CM1 paper. Okay. So this is how they divide the weightage of this paper A and paper B. 70-30 weightage. Okay. Okay. 70% weightage on paper A and 30% weightage on paper B. So if you have any other question, yeah.
So what is the passing percentage in IAI?
In IAI, the passing marks is fixed to 50. Okay, so you can say 50%, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
In
Sir,
IFO, it is.
Sir, if we attain more than 50 marks in the first paper A, that is written MCQ, and by chance we fail in paper B. So overall,
see, like let's say you scored 90 marks in paper A and 0 marks in paper B. You have to attempt the paper. If you don't attempt the paper, then you will be marked as absent. Okay. But let's say you attained 0 marks in paper B. So 70% of this plus 0, 30%. Right. This is how you will be marked, and will just be 63 and you will pass. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So you can definitely pass by getting 0 marks in paper B, but you cannot pass by getting 0 marks in paper A, because even if you get 100 marks in paper B, it will just become 30 marks in total. Correct. So paper A is definitely important, but paper B pushes you from the threshold above the passing mark. Many times what happens is we make small mistakes, and that is why we come down to 45 marks, 50 marks, and this paper B is going to push you above that threshold level. So don't ignore paper B. It's not only important for your future work, but also it is important for your examination. Now let's start. Now see here, as I said, this chapter 1 has been removed, Principles of Actuarial Modeling. It was just a theory topic talking about the other subjects and stuff. It was not related to this subject at all. Cash flow models is another theory topic that we are going to learn throughout the course. So whatever you are going to learn throughout these chapters, they are talking about it in this one single chapter. So we are not going to start with that. We are going to start with the third chapter, that is time value of money. Okay. Now whenever I use the word value of money, okay, what does come into your mind? Can you tell me any different values of money? Can we talk about something? What are the value of money? Okay, before we go to value of money, can you tell me what is money? Whatever comes to your mind, first thing that comes into your mind.
Sir, a medium of exchange.
Medium of exchange, good. Anything else?
It's universal.
Okay, universal, good. Anything else?
Sir, it's a legal tender, sir.
Legal tender, good. Any other thing that comes into mind?
It eases the transaction of goods and services.
Good. Let's say exchange. Eases the exchange of goods and services. Right. So more or less we have covered. It's a medium of exchange. Okay. It is universal. Everybody understands money. It's a legal tender. That means it's a it's, what do we say? It is recognized by everybody, recognized by the government. It's a legal thing. Although you might say there is bitcoins and stuff that are not really recognized by the governments and stuff. So that comes into non-legal tenders. And then eases the exchange of goods and services. This is the use of that money. It eases our exchange of money. Because we have all studied barter system in schools, right? That is how people used to exchange goods. Okay, but it was very difficult to understand the value of somebody else's goods. Okay, like let's say there is a farmer who wants some fish, and there is a fisherman who wants some wheat. Okay, so if the farmer brings, let's say, 20 kg of wheat, and fisherman has, let's say, 20 kg of fish, it's very difficult for a fisherman to understand how much this 20 kg of wheat is going to be worth, and it is going to be very difficult for the farmer to understand how much worth this 20 kgs of fish is going to be worth. Right? Because farmer does not know how much effort does it take to fish, and a fisherman does not know how much effort does it take, how much time does it take to grow that 20 kgs of wheat. So it's very difficult for them to understand the value of their own goods, or the other person's goods. So it is better if the farmer says that this 20 kg of wheat is worth, let's say, 2000 rupees. Okay, and let's say fisherman says this 20 kg of fish is worth 1000 rupees. Now what is happening is they are labeling how much worth they feel like their own goods are. So then it becomes very easy for them to exchange, even if they are not exchanging money. Okay, even if they are not exchanging money, fisherman can say that I will give you 10 kgs of wheat for 20 kgs of fish. Right? They can just exchange this 10 kgs of wheat to 20 kgs of fish. Right? And they both will agree, but this currency, this money was used so that we can understand the value of goods. Okay, so what we are doing is we are valuing goods and services. This is the main reason money was created. Okay, so that we can value goods and services. Okay, and that definitely eases the exchange of goods and services, and that is why it becomes the medium of exchange. And because everybody finds that easy, that is why it is universal and a legal tender. So everything that you said was correct, right? Okay, so money is used for valuing goods and services. So in financial world, money is very important. Right? Now, what are the different kinds of value of money that we can find? There is something called as there will be face value. Value written on the face of the currency would be the face value. So let's say okay, so simply let's say this is a 100 rupee note. So the value written on the face of this note will be face value of this currency. So whatever is written, whatever value is written, that would be the face value of this currency. Now actually this 100 rupees, the written on the face value, okay, this note is not actually 100 rupees. The value written here gives it a value. Rather the note written here, something is written here. Let me find a good image for you to show what that is. Okay, now you can see, I hope you can read what is written here. It says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 100 rupees, and there's a sign of governor of RBI, Reserve Bank of India, right? So the governor is promising us, whoever is holding this note, a sum of 100 rupees. So actually this is not 100 rupees. This is nothing but a promissory note. You might have studied promissory note, right? So this is just a promissory note. So if this is not 100 rupees, what is 100 rupees? Can you tell me? Then if this is not a 100 rupees, this is just a piece of paper, a promissory note, then what would be 100 rupees? So imagine that if I go to the governor, if he writes on the piece of paper the same thing, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 100 rupees, signs it, put a seal of RBI, then it will actually be worth the same 100 rupees that is this. So can you tell me what this 100 rupees is? What is money then?
A promise.
Could you repeat?
Money. We can say that it's a promise.
It's a promise, okay, but if I promise that I will come home on Diwali, is that money? So it's a promise. That is that tender, legal tender that we are saying. It is a legal tender because RBI governor has signed it. Okay. But then what is money actually? Money is just a concept. It's a concept that we use for valuing goods and services. It's nothing more than a concept. That is why the physical note, we very rarely now use those physical notes. We have UPI, we have credit cards, debit cards. There are so many ways of directly transferring money from one bank account to the other bank account, right? So the amount of those physical notes is very less compared to the actual currency that is used for valuing these goods and services that we are talking about. Okay, so money is nothing but a concept. It's just a concept that is used for valuing. Because we understand money from a very young age, it's very difficult for us to understand that money is not a physical item. Okay, it's just a man-made concept. That is why value of money keeps on going up and down, because we decide that that is how it should be. Okay, Now we decided that value of money should go up and down, right? $1 is worth 80 rupees sometimes, then someday it will be 85 rupees, then someday it will be 75 rupees. What's happening there is the value of money is changing. There are many reasons for the value of money to change, but again, it is just a man-made concept. If Government of India someday decides that we don't want the value of our money to change like this, so we'll fix it. There might be many problems in trade and stuff, but they can, because they decided, Government of India said that we will decide that now 1 rupee is worth $1. Okay, they can do that. It just, the problem is there will be a lot of problem in trades. Okay, but if they want, they can do that. They can say 1 rupee is $1. Because it's just a concept, man-made concept. So the value that we are talking about, face value, it is nothing but the value written on this piece of paper. Okay, that becomes the face value. Then we can have something called as market value. Market value will be that we were just talking about, $1 is worth 85 rupees, right? It's a rupees 85. That becomes the market value. How much can you sell it on the market for? Or you can say, with that 100 rupees, I can buy 10 pens. So I can value that 100 rupees with the pens. I can say 10 pens I can buy from that 100 rupees. So value of 100 rupees is 10 pens. Right. Of course, we don't do this because we are using this rupees, this concept, to actually value the pens. So we will not do the other way around. So usually when I say the market value, in market how much other currency I can get for this currency is usually the market value. Right. Then we will have something called as time value. Okay. Now time value is the value that keeps on changing with time. Okay. There is some logic behind this value changing with time. That is what we are going to study here. So when I say time value, there are two types of time value. We measure the time value using interest or inflation. These are the two ways the time value of money changes, due to interest and due to inflation. Inflation we will study later. Okay, we have a whole chapter on inflation. Right now we are interested in the interest. We have two types of interest. We have simple interest and we have compound interest. Is there anybody who is learning interest rates for the first time? Let me know, please. If not, you have all studied simple interest, compound interest before. If that is the case, I'll go a little bit faster. Okay, that is all I am saying. Okay. In simple interest, we say the simple interest, let's say I am writing it as SI, is calculated using PIT, where I'll say P is nothing but principal amount, I is the rate of interest, T is the time for which we have invested that rate of interest, that principal amount. Okay. So this is how we write simple interest, For compound interest, we just say it is P into 1 plus I raised to n minus 1. This is how we calculate the compound interest. Again, P is principal, I is the rate of interest, n is number of years for which we are investing that principal amount, right? So if I want to calculate amount for simple interest will just be P into 1 plus IT, and amount for compound interest will just be P into 1 plus I raised to n. Right. Okay, we have all studied this. Now can you tell me why do we study two different rates of interest? Why do we need simple interest and compound interest? See, one thing, that whenever you are studying with me, no answer is wrong, no answer is correct. See, if you know all the answers, then you don't need me for teaching, for teach you any new concepts. Okay, if you know everything, then you don't need to learn. That means if you are not making mistake, you are not actually learning. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Okay, so whenever I am asking you some question, I am expecting that you may have learned something, and it might be correct, it might be wrong. It does not matter if you have learned wrong things. I will always teach you what is the correct concept. Okay, many times we learn something differently and it might be wrong as well. Okay, so that is why I'm asking you, why do you think we learn simple interest and compound interest? Why do we have two different rates of interest? Why not just one? It's just a concept made by us, by humans. It's not a naturally occurring law like physics or mathematics or something like that. This is something that we made up. So why do we need two different ways of calculating the same thing?
Hello, am I
Yes.
audible?
Yes.
So maybe because of inflation, to beat inflation, if we only consider simple interest, and if we assume that it is 6%, so after 10 years, if we're getting only 6%, the money that will be earning, we might not be able to, beat inflation. So that is why the interest that we are earning, it should also be able to beat inflation. That is why we have introduced compound interest.
Not really, because let's say inflation is 7% and you want to beat it with simple interest. What if I make the interest 20%? I'll definitely beat the inflation. Right? It's a man-made concept. Who is to say that I cannot make it simple interest into 20%?
Maybe to earn more interest.
Not really. Okay. See, because if somebody is earning interest, somebody is actually paying interest. It's not coming out of thin air. Right? If you take a loan from me, I am earning interest, but you are paying that interest. Right? So if let's say I am earning more interest, then you are actually giving more interest to me. Right? So if let's say you are saying compound interest earns more interest and simple interest earns less interest. So as a person who has given loan, I would want us to always have compound interest, and as the person who is giving interest or who is paying off that loan, you would always want a simple interest. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so then we will never be in sync. So I will say no, I will charge you compound interest. You will say no, I will give you only simple interest, and we will never come into an agreement. So that is not how it works. Anybody else? Anybody wants to try? Why do we learn two different interests? Now see, simple interest was created initially, okay, but simple interest is not consistent. Compound interest is consistent. Now, what does that mean, right? What does consistent mean? So basically, I'll give you an example. Let's say this time I take a loan of 100 rupees from you. Okay, I take a loan of 100 rupees from you for 3 years. Okay, and let's say you are charging simple interest of 10%. If you're charging simple interest of 10%, can you tell me how much should I return you after 3 years? You will say amount to be returned should be nothing but P, principal being 100 into 1 plus the interest rate is 10%. Now see, you might have learned the formulas as R by 100 or something like that. We are not going to write it that way. When I say 10%, that means 0.1. Percent is already divided by 100. Okay. So that is not how we are going to write. 10% just means 0.1 into the time. We are going for 3 years. So 3. Right. That is going to be 130. Okay. So I will return you 130 after 3 years. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now imagine that instead of 3 years, you gave me loan only for 1 year. Okay. So if you gave me loan only for 1 year, let's say, so we know that how much will it be? It will be 110. Correct? 10% interest for 1 year is going to be 100. Okay. Now after 1 year, let's say I require more money. So I come to you and you say, okay, I'll give you another 110 as loan. So you are going to give me this 110. I'll write here. Okay. After 1 year, I returned 110. You gave me back this 110 again on 10% interest. Okay. So this 110 after 1 year, how much will it be?
121.
Yes, it will be 121, right? So after 1 year at time 2, it will be 121. Okay. So this 121, again I say, array, I need more money. Give me this 121 back as loan. So you gave me again this loan for 1 year. How much will it be?
133.1.
Perfect. 133.1. Can you see a difference? If you give me loan for 3 years, the same 100 rupees given for 3 years directly gives me 130. But this same 100 rupees, if given 1 year at a time, okay, see, I gave you 110 back and immediately I took the 110 as loan. So after 1 year, 121, I gave you 121 and immediately took it as a loan. And then same thing here. So I'm returning you 133.1. Does that make sense? Now, it's the same 100 rupees that is earning you either 130 or it is earning you 133.1. Which one would you prefer?
133.
You will definitely prefer 133 because you are earning more, right? So you will never give me loan directly for 3 years. You will say, if you want loan, return me the money after 1 year and then take it back. Right? You will say, return me the money after 1 year, take it back as loan if you want it. So what would happen? Let's imagine I am running a business. I am creating some goods. At the end of the year, now I have to basically sell all my inventory just so that I have that money back for your loan. I will return that money to you to just get that money back and then buy the inventory again. So that becomes a very big hassle. I cannot work that ways, right? Not every time I would have sold all my goods and have no raw material, right? It does not work that ways. So what I would say is, okay, this is very difficult for me to return 110 after 1 year, 121 then after 2 years, just so that I can get the money back to, just so that you can give that money back to me. So instead of that, take this 133.1 but just after 3 years, right? Take that 133.1 but directly after 3 years, directly from here to here. I will not give you this and this. You will agree because there is no need for us to do this and this, right? So what you would say is, how do we calculate how much money should we get after 3 years if we directly say from here to here? So you'll say, okay, the first year we'll calculate 10% simple interest. So 100 rupees, 10% simple interest, 0.1 into 1 gives me 110. Then this 110, 1 plus 0.1 into 1 is 121. So I can write this as 100 into 1 plus 0.1 square is 121, right? I am just substituting this 110 as this here. Right? And then I will say 121 into 1 plus 0.1 into 1 is 133.1. So I can say it is same as 100 into 1 plus 0.1 cube is 133.1. So this principal into 1 plus rate of interest raised to n is the formula for compound interest. Right? So if simple interest was broken down into multiple years, this 110, 121, I got inconsistent answers. Directly given for 3 years and given 1 year at a time, I got inconsistent answers. Whereas if you calculate this using compound interest, this, you will always get consistent answers. That is why we say in compound interest we are giving interest on interest as well. Here what is happening is this 110, 100 is the principal, 10 is the interest. If you directly say this 130, you are only paying the interest on the principal. But here when you are giving it as loan again, you are paying interest on this 10 rupees as well. This extra 1 rupee is going to be interest on this 10 rupee. Okay. So this 3.1 extra came out because the interest is given on the interest as well. The interest that is accumulated at the end of 1 year, we are paying interest on that as well. So if you do that, then whether you choose 1 year at a time or whether you choose directly 3 years, your answer will be consistent. Okay? So simple interest is not consistent, compound interest is consistent. Right? Now let's say can you calculate this for me? So I'll say the principal amount is 1000. Time is 5 years. So the amount that we will have after 5 years,
4,500.
okay, so 1000 into, I'll have 1 plus 0.07 into 5, so that is 4,500. Okay, you can do this calculation very easily. This would be 0.35. Okay, so 1.035 into 1000. Okay, so actually 3,500, this is what we will get, right? What about,
Sir,
yes,
hello. Sir, it should be 1350, right?
oh, why 1350? Okay, right, because this is 1.35 into 1000, right? So it will be 1350. Yes. Okay. Here again principal is 1000, number of years is 5, so compound would be 1000, 1 plus 0.07 raised to 5. Can you do this calculation without calculator? Maybe you can, but it will be very lengthy and time consuming, right? So with calculator we can do it very quickly. I'll talk about this calculators. We are going to use scientific calculators and how to use it. I'll talk about it later. Right now let's just get this answer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we said, okay, that simple interest is not consistent. That is why we required compound interest, because it is consistent, right? Okay, we understand compound interest, but to use compound interest we don't really need simple interest. Like here, compound interest, we directly had a formula for compound interest. If we never learn simple interest, we are still okay with it. We will learn compound interest and we are okay with it. So can you tell me, why do we learn simple interest? If we say that the compound interest is what we should use, it is consistent, then why are we learning simple interest? Anyone? Nobody asked your teachers that why are we learning two different methods? Because of course we are going to use only one, and we know that we mostly use compound interest. But that does not mean that we don't use simple interest. We do use simple interest also. The reason we use simple interest is in the name, because it is simple. Like here, to calculate the simple interest, we did not really need calculator. We knew 7 into 5 is 35. So this would be 1.35 into 1000. I got 350. Or you could have said, on 1000 rupees, 7% interest is going to be 70 rupees. 70 rupees is the interest on 1000 rupees per year. For 5 years, that interest will become 350. I can add 1000 to it, and finally I have to return 1350. Simple calculation. We did not require calculator for it. Can you do that in compound interest? In compound interest, you would have to say, first year the interest would be 70, 7% is 70. Then second year another interest will be 70. Then on this 70 there will be another interest of 4.9. 7% of 70 is 4.9. Then again another interest of 70, 4.9 because of this 70. Then because of this 70 I will have another 4.9, and because of 4.9 I'll have another interest of whatever I get, 4.9 into 0.07. This is how I'll have to calculate it if I don't do it using calculator. Because I'll have to pay interest on the interest that has already been paid. It becomes very lengthy without the calculator. Of course, with calculator it is very straightforward. But what happens is, it's not very simple. Not everybody has the knowledge of mathematics that you have, right? But everybody needs to learn finance. So it becomes very difficult for people to understand how the interest is compounding. So for very short period of time or very small amount of money, we may use simple interest. Why? Because it is simple and the difference in the interest will not be much. So this is very important. Okay, for a short period of time and small amount of money, simple interest is still used as this is the reason we still study simple interest and we still use simple interest. Okay, for short periods of time and small amounts of money, simple interest is still used as the difference in interest from compound interest will be small and calculations will be simplified. Okay, so you can imagine that a small trader let's say buys raw material and will say that I cannot pay you right now, I will buy it on credit, I'll pay you after I make the product and sell it in 3 months time. Okay, then I'll pay you for the raw material. That happens a lot in business. Okay, so the person who is selling the raw material, what he'll say is, okay, I don't mind you pay it in 3 months or 4 months, but I will charge you 1% interest per month. Okay, so you can imagine that if we were talking about compound, 1% interest per month for 3 months, you will have to compound it, you will have to use calculator to do it. Then 4 months you will have to again use calculator to do it. But if I say 1% per month simple interest, for 1000 rupees it's going to be 10 rupees per 1000 rupees for per month. So 3 months it is 30 rupees per 1000 rupees, and for 4 months it is 40 rupees per 1000 rupees. Right? You can imagine, and if I calculate it in terms of compound, so 3 months, if returned in 3 months it will be 1030, and if returned in 4 months it will be 1040. If I use compound, there is a difference in compound, and this is more consistent, but you can see the difference is so small. almost negligible. And the convenience that we have of calculating using simple interest is much more important. You can imagine that if I got delayed, and instead of 4 months I pay you after 5 months, I know exactly how much to pay. 1050, 10 rupees per month. But here I'll have to do the calculation again. I'll have to bring out the calculator. I have to say 1000 into 1.01 raised to 5, and that is 1051.01. While I return you this money, you will have to do the calculation yourself to check whether I have given you the correct amount or not. And the difference is very little. So the convenience is what helps us use simple interest even nowadays, even though compound interest is most widely used. Okay. So if somebody asks you why do we use compound interest more than simple interest, don't answer that it gives us more interest. No, that is not the answer. It is because it is consistent. And why do we still use simple interest? Because it is more convenient for small times, for short periods of time and small amounts. It is more convenient for us to use simple interest rather than compound interest. And the difference between the interest will be negligible or will be very small. That is why we still use simple interest for short periods of time and small amounts of money. That should be your answer. Okay. I'll give you a question. Can you solve this? You have to solve it using simple interest first, then using compound interest for all these 3 times: 6 months, 1 year and 18 months. How much will we have after these times if a sum of 1000 invested in an account paying simple interest, compound interest? So how much is it for simple interest? So if I calculate for 6 months, Now 6 months you will have to convert it into years because the rate of interest is given in years. So you'll have to convert your time into years as well. That would be 0.5. So this is 45. So 0.045.
Sir, 1045.
Yes. So 1.045 and that would be 1045. Then 1 year.
1090.
Yes. So 1000 1 plus 0.09 into 1. Then 18 months.
1135.
Okay. So 1000 1 plus 0.09 into 18 months would be 1.5. So 3 1000 into 1.135, right? 1135. Okay. I'll do the compound interest here itself. Again I will have to convert it into years and raise to 0.5. So I will have to use the calculator. Now see, in our calculator we'll be using scientific calculators. Okay, I'll talk about which calculator and stuff, but right now in this calculator we can make complicated equations directly in one single line. So you can see we have our normal numbers here, we have our addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, but we have some special keys here. This will help us make fractions. This will be root, right? Root, cube root and other stuff. I don't want this. Okay. Then I have square. If I want any other power than square, I can use this box. So like I want here raised to 0.5, can use it, right? And it's equal to 1044.03. Then 1 year, one plus I raised to 1, that is just 1090. Then 18 months, 1 plus 0.09 raised to 18 months would be 1.5 years. So 1000 into 1.09 and then raised to, so again I will take this x raised to box and 1.5 equal to, and I get this answer 1137.993. Okay, so again you can see that for simple interest we did not use calculators to calculate this, but for compound interest we did require calculators. Okay, it's not impossible to do without calculators, but it will be very lengthy to do it without calculators. So that is why simple interest, compound interest, right? Compound interest is not that simple to calculate, but compound interest is consistent. Okay, so anyways, I just wanted you to compare here. Within 6 months, you can see simple interest, the interest amount that we got was 45, whereas in compound the interest amount was 44.3. So clearly simple interest was more than compound interest. In year 1 they are exactly equal, but in 18 months compound interest is more than the simple interest, right? So if your calculation is less than 1 year, you will find that simple interest is more than the compound interest. For 1 year they are the same, and for more than 1 year compound interest is more than simple interest if the rates are equal. That is very important. Rates must be equal. Right? So I guess you already might have known this, but I just wanted to remind you. Now the terms that I have written here, AS, AC, PIT, we are not going to use those terms. Okay. So we'll talk about a few terms. Okay, we'll talk about present value. Now let's say that today you got a salary. Let's say you got a salary of 100 rupees today. Okay. Now you put that money in your bank account. That is, let's say, paying interest rate, compound interest of I%, compound interest. Okay. So after 1 year, in your bank account you will have 100 into 1 plus I. This is the amount that you will have after 1 year. After 2 years you will have 100 into 1 plus I square. Right. After 3 years you will have 100 into 1 plus I cube. Does that make sense? Right? So what this is the time value of money that you are getting. So we'll say this is the present value at time 0. At time 0, or we don't write 0, we write 0, does not make any difference. So this is present value at time 0. This we'll call it as present value at time 1. This is present value at time 2. Present value at time 3. So these are all called as present values. Present value at that time. Okay. Now can you tell me that can I calculate the value at time -1 for the salary that you got today? Can you tell me how much value was it at -1? That means 1 year ago, if you got the salary today.
Or will it be 101 minus I?
No, will not go minus I. Follow the pattern. If I go from here to here, what am I doing?
Power -1.
So here you can say it is 100
Will be
divided by
divided by
1 plus I, or raised to -1. It's the same thing. Okay. So at -2, we can say 100 divided by 1 plus I square, or you could say multiplied by raised to -2. Right. That works. No problem. Okay. But I said you got this salary today, can we calculate value at time minus 1? You got this salary today, can we calculate value at minus 1? Did this money exist at minus 1? If you got the salary today, I just want yes or no answer. What do you think?
No, sir.
It did not exist. Actually, it did exist for two reasons. Okay, I'll tell you in terms of two concepts. The simplest concept is, in finance we will always say that all the money that you are getting is nothing but invested. Okay, first thing is that in finance every money that you are getting is invested. That means if you got the salary today, right now, you are not putting it in your wallet. It is directly going into the bank account and it is going to earn you interest. So it is continuously earning you interest. Okay. Then secondly, any money that you are receiving is assumed to be received because some money has been in the account, or you can say has been invested in the past. So we'll say this 100 rupees that we are saying that you are receiving today is because you had invested some money in the past. So how much money would you have invested in 1 year ago? This is the money that you would have invested 1 year ago to get this 100 rupees today. 2 years ago, this is the amount that you would have invested to get 100 rupees today. Correct? So this is the simple concept, that every money that you are receiving is because you had money invested in the past. That is why it still had value at time minus 1. It still had value at time minus 2. It still had value at time minus 3. But I don't like this concept. Okay. Because then logically the concept of the salary that you are receiving salary today does not make sense with this concept, right? Okay. But you might have studied that in science that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, right? You might have studied that. It's a very simple statement. It can only be converted from one form to the other. Similarly, we will be assuming that the value of money can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to the other. So why are you receiving salary of 100 rupees today? Because you put in some value, you gave the work, you gave the services worth rupees 100. That is why you received the salary of rupees 100. So the value has been converted from either goods or services into the currency that you are receiving. Does that make sense? So what is worth, your services are worth 1 year ago. This is the worth of your services 1 year ago. Maybe 1 year ago you were studying, you put in some money to study, that is earning you that salary today. Okay. So in real world, everybody does not have the same value. Everybody who has studied from the same college, same studied the same degree, maybe even if got the same marks, does not mean will earn the same salary in the future. Right? That is not going to be the case. But right now we will assume that the value is going to stay same. It will just change due to time. So it's the same 100 rupees but in the different form. As services, as knowledge, okay, as the food that you are eating, that is going to create the value in the future. If you don't eat food, you will not be able to work. So everything is contributing towards the salary that you are supposed to get. So 1 year ago also it had value, 2 years ago also it had value, 3 years ago it had value. Okay, you can think it that way, that it had value but in a different form, or you can think that concept as we had money invested in the past somewhere in minus infinity, somewhere in the past, that is still giving me value, and that was that 100 rupees that I received today. That is also how you can assume. Okay, so as we said, money is just a concept. The salary that you are getting is not any cash or what we assume that money. It is just a value. It's just a way of valuing your services. Correct? The services that you gave to the company, for that they are paying you salary. I will get my salary because I am teaching you. Right? So my knowledge, my way of teaching will convert it into salary that you will pay me. Right? So that is the way of valuing my services. Okay, you are valuing my services by paying my salary. Does that make sense? So there is still a value even though that money did not exist at that time. So it is, present value is nothing but value at a given point in time. So it will be the time value. Time value of money Okay, so time value of money at any given point in time is called as present value at that time. Okay. The future value, there is no technical term as future value. We just use future value to represent any value in future, where present value is either today's or value in past. Okay, so okay, so there is no technical term as future value, but any value that is going to come in future, we refer it to as a future value. Present value is a technical term. So in this question, all of these AS and AC that we have calculated, we will write it as future value. Okay, we'll write it as future values later on. Right now we have just written it as AS and AC. And these 1000, that is our principal, we will write it as present value, because we'll say that is the present value at time 0. Okay, so we'll refer it to as present value. So anyways, Now let's say we have time t1, time t2. We are referring, this is past value in time, so present value will refer like this and future value will refer like this. Right. We can write present value at time t1, future value at time t2. It's just we are saying this much money we have invested at time t1 and this much money we will have after time t2. Okay. So we can refer it to as present value and future value. So I can say that future value at time t2 will be equal to present value at time t1 into the accumulation factor. Okay. So the term accumulation factor refers to just the simple ratio by which the time value will change. Okay, the ratio by which the time value will increase between time t1 and t2, that will be called as accumulation factor. So for simple interest, we'll say future value at time n will be equal to present value at time 0 into 1 plus I into n. You can write t if you want to, but this is the basic notation that we will make. And for compound interest, let's say future value at time n must be present value into 1 plus I raised to n. So these are nothing but the accumulation factors. These are accumulation factor from time 0 to time n. The future value we will also refer it to as accumulated value. Okay, we'll also call it as accumulated value. That is also important. In the previous questions I have used the term accumulated value a lot. It's the value that will be accumulated in the future, how much money that we will have after certain time. Okay, that will be accumulated value. Now I will keep the last 10 minutes for any doubts you may have. If you have any questions about examination or institutes or any other thing, you can ask me. You can unmute yourself, you can ask in the chat.
Sir, all the online lectures will be recorded, right?
Yes, all online lectures will be recorded and it is shared with the students, okay, after the lecture, after few hours. Anything else? Okay, you can still ask me. I'll just continue.
सर ऑनलाइन लेक्चर्स वीकडेज पे होंगे या फिर सिर्फ वीकेंड्स पे?
No, online lectures will be conducted on weekdays. So we will have weekdays batch only. Okay. So sometimes I'll conduct it on Saturday or Sunday, but mostly on weekdays. Okay, one of the advantages we'll have is that these lectures are recorded. So by any chance you miss a lecture, you can always watch it later. Okay, but always remember that it will be easier if you follow the lecture as we go along. Okay, because you can always ask me doubt directly in the class. That becomes easier, and secondly it becomes easier to follow, because if you start lagging behind, what will happen is you will always say, okay, I have not watched yesterday's lecture, I will not be able to understand today, so I will not attend today's lecture also, right? And then you keep on backlogging and backlogging and backlogging, and after some time you are not able to cope up with all of the studies. Okay, plus consistently you will have to you will have to practice. So the CM1 course is lengthy, but it is easy to understand. So the understanding part is not very difficult. The difficulty comes when we are solving questions. So if you keep on solving the questions, practice whenever I say, okay, these are the homework, practice it, ask me doubts in the next class. So if you keep on practicing it with me, it becomes easier for you to clear your doubts and then move to the next topic. Okay. Dinesh, most likely we will keep something similar time. Either it will be 7 to 9 or it will be 6:30 to 8:30. Priyank sir, I have my exams coming from 18th to 28th semester exams. No problem. See, at the beginning we don't have a lot of to work with. Okay? So even if you miss the lectures, you can always watch it later. And but what happens is कि as we go along, okay, practice is going to be important. Okay? So sometimes you will have these problems that you have exams in the college, or because of some personal reason you could not attend. No problem, you can always attend it later. Okay, we will mostly have 2 lectures per week, and later on I will be adding 3 lectures per week. So most likely first 2 months or so we will have 2 lectures per week, and then I'll add up one more, and most of the we'll have 3 lectures per week. Okay, so one more thing, calculator. So if you are giving paper from IAI, that is the Indian Institute, you should buy Casio FX 82 ES Plus. If you are giving paper from IFOA, UK Institute, you should buy Casio FX 991 ES Plus. Okay, now make sure that you are buying the ES version and not the MS version. There is an MS version. There are certain functions in ES that are not present in MS. We require those functions. So make sure that you buy the ES version. And throughout the course, I will be teaching you how to, learn those calculator. So even if you have never used a scientific calculator, no problem, I'll be teaching you everything.
Sir, what is the passing mark for IFOA?
See, IFOA usually have a variable passing mark. So usually we say it is somewhere between 55 to 60. Sometimes it goes 62. 62 has been the maximum, but it can go a little bit beyond also. But usually we find it is between 55 and 60. Okay, I am expecting it back in this range, 55 to 60, or maybe even less than 55. Because now they have declared that it is going to be a proctored exam. Okay, proctored means the camera will be on, your mic will be on during your examination. So there has been complaints about students colluding together and solving the papers together and stuff. So that will not be possible now. Okay, so I'm expecting the passing mark to get back to this range, 55 to 60. We always say that if you are scoring, let's say 65 marks, you are definitely going to clear the examination. Okay, so IAI paper is going to be completely MCQs. Even though we are studying the same course, in IFOA you will have to type in the paper A, type in MS Word. In IAI they will just ask you MCQs, because most of the students who are not very familiar with computers have a lot of problem in learning to type in MS Word, especially if you have to learn to type mathematically. I'm going to teach you that also. I will teach you how to type mathematical equations in Word. So for IFA students that will be important. For IAI students, not important, because for IAI students you will have to solve it on paper and just select the correct answers. Okay, so tomorrow again we will have a demo lecture, same time, 7 to 8:45. Okay, you can join with the same link, and if you have more questions about the examination and stuff, you can ask me tomorrow as well. Okay, chalo, let's end the class here. We'll meet tomorrow. Bye.